Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too. Improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. I want to study here because it is comfortable to study. No sound, no noise. Very comfortable to study. I would like to go to the cafe today because I want to try tapioca juice. I wanna go to the shopping mall because there are some things that I want to buy there. I don't go outside just because it is raining. I don't go out just because it is raining. I don't go out just because it is raining. It is not always a good song just because it is composed by a famous artist. It is not always a good book just because it is written a famous author. It is not always a good quality just because it is expensive. A pair of speakers don't always have a good sound just because they are very expensive. A pair of speakers don't always have a good sound, good quality, just because they are very expensive. Expensive food is not always tasty, just because it is expensive. The music is not always a good one, just because it is made by a good artist, famous artist. The food is not always tasty just because it is expensive. I don't go out just because it is raining. The festival is not held just because it is raining. The festival is not held just because it is raining. The festival is not held just because it is raining. The festival is not held just because it is typhoon. The festival is not held just because it is raining. The festival is not held just because it is raining. Our boss is not always angry just because he has trouble in his family. Our company picnic is not held just because it is raining. I don't get sad just because I failed examination. I don't get depressed just because I make a mistake at the work. I don't get depressed just because I make a mistake at the work. The pair of speakers don't always have a good sound just because they are expensive. The festival is not always The festival is not be held just because it is raining. The video games are not always good just because they are expensive. The movie is not always good just because it is cost much money. Much money was spent. The movies are not always good one just because the cost was high. I don't go out just because it is raining. I don't go out just because it is raining. A song is not always a good one just because it is made by a good famous artist. A song is not always a good one just because it is made by a famous artist. A book is not always a good one just because it is written by a famous writer. A book is not always a good book just because it is written by a famous author. The tourist spot is not always a good place just because it is ranked in top 10. Because everyone has each taste, you know. The tourist spot is not always a good place just because it is ranked in the top 10. The recommended food is not always a good one just because it is appeared on the guidebook. The food is not always a good food just because it is appeared on the guidebook. The place is not always safe just because it is written safe in the guidebook. The entrance examination is not always easy just because it is written easy in the book. The food is not always tasty just because it is expensive. The meal is not always tasty just because it is expensive. The merchandise is not always high quality just because it is expensive. The merchandise is not always a good quality. The merchandise does not always have a good quality just because it is expensive. The merchandise is not always good quality just because it is expensive. The festival is not held just because it is typhoon. The little children don't go out just because it is raining. I don't get depressed just because I'm offended by someone. I don't get depressed just because I'm insulted. I'm so lenient. Our boss is not get angry just because he is criticized by someone. Our boss does not get angry just because we are late for the work. Our boss does not get angry just because we are late for the work. Our boss does not always get angry just because we are late for the workplace. Our boss does not always get angry just because we are late for the workplace. Our boss does not get angry just because we make a mistake. Our boss does not get angry just because we make a mistake, because everyone makes a mistake. But making a mistake on purpose is subject to his anger, of course. I don't study English just because I want to enter a university. I don't study English just because I want to enter university. I don't study English just because I want to enter a university. I don't study English just because I want to enter university. But for myself. I don't go to the shopping mall just because I want to buy something. I don't go to a foreign country just because I want to go. I don't go to a foreign country just because I wanna go. I am not absent from work just because I'm sleepy. I am not absent. I don't go to school just because I'm sleepy. I don't go to school just because I'm sleepy. I don't go to school just because I'm sleepy. I don't go to school just because I'm sleepy. I don't go to school just because I'm sleepy. I don't sleep during the class just because I'm sleepy. I don't eat much just because I'm super hungry at lunch, because if I eat much, I feel sleepy later during the class after lunch. I don't eat too much at lunch just because I'm super hungry. I don't eat lunch much just because I'm super hungry. I don't eat lunch much. I don't eat much lunch just because I'm super hungry. I don't sleep during the class just because I feel sleepy. I don't sleep during the class just because I feel sleepy. I don't sleep during the class just because I feel sleepy. It is waste of time and money. I will not go out just because I want to buy a thing. I will not go to a shop just because I want a thing. I don't go out just because it is raining. I don't go out just because it is raining. The man does not go out just because it is raining. The man does not walk out just because it is typhoon. Because he is very stubborn. A book is not always a good book just because it is written a famous writer. Thus, a song is not always a good one just because it is made by a famous artist. A song is not always a good one just because it is made by a famous artist. A picture is not always a fascinating one just because it is taken by a famous photographer. A picture is not always a good one just because it is taken by a famous photographer. A photograph is not always a good one just because it is taken by a famous photographer. The news is not always true just because it is informed by TV. The news is not always true just because it is on-aired on TV. The news is not always true just because it is broadcasted on TV. The method is not always true and applicable to you just because it is recommended by a famous artist, influencer. The method of something is not always true or applicable to you just because it is recommended by a famous influencer. The investment method is not always good just because it is recommended by a famous influencer. The investment way is not always true just because it is recommended by a famous influencer. The tourist spot is not always a good place just because it is included in the guidebook. The food is not always a good one just because it is recommended in the book. The tourist spot is not always a good place just because it is recommended in the guidebook. The food is not always a good one just because it is recommended in the guidebook. The food is not always a good one just because it is expensive. Food is not always a good food just because it is expensive. The capital of the country is not always a good place just because it is capital. The place is not always a good place just because it is the capital. The place to live is not always a good place just because it is the capital. The place is not always a good place just because it is the capital of the country. Tokyo is not always a good place just because it is the capital of Japan. Tokyo is not always a good place just because it is the capital. Place is not always a good place just because it is a capital. The tourist spot is not always a good place just because it is recommended in the tourist spot, in the guidebook. A song is not always a good one just because it is made by a famous artist. A book is not always a good book just because it is written by a famous writer. The information is not always true just because it is broadcasted on TV. The information is not always true just because it is broadcasted on the news. The information is not always true just because it is from famous company. I am going to have 3 days off since I'm sick. I'm going to have 3 days paid leave since I'm hospitalized from today. I'm going to take 3 days paid leaves since I'm in hospital and it takes 3 days to get released from the hospital. Since you are under 18, you don't have the right to vote in Japan. Since you are under 20, you cannot drink alcoholic beverages in Japan, nor smoke cigarette. Since you are under 18, you don't have the right to vote in Japan. Since you are under 20, you cannot drink alcoholic beverages. You cannot drink alcoholic beverage and smoke cigarette. Since it is Thursday today, are you getting tired in a week? Since it is Thursday today, are you getting tired in a week? Which day in a week do you like? Which day in the week do you don't like? Do you hate? Do you detest? Since you graduate from your university this March, you will enter the society soon. Since you are beginner of the machine, you should read the directions carefully until you get used to the operation. Okay? Since it has been raining from last week, I can't dry my futon. Since it has been raining for 3 days in a row, I cannot dry my futon yet. My daughter is tired now since she has been studying from the morning. I want to pass the examination as I'm trying many times. I want to pass the entrance examination as I want to have a fun school days in the university. I feel sleepy as I ate much lunch. I'm feel so sleepy as I ate much lunch. I know I shouldn't. I'm sleepy as I ate much lunch, though I know I should not have. Though I knew I should not have. I'm going to the hospital since I got injured on the way. I will go home as I forgot a document in my house. I will go home as I forgot the important document at home. Now that you have been released from the hospital, you can stay at home. Now that you are 20 years old, you can drink alcoholic beverage and smoke a cigarette in Japan. Now that you are 18 years old, you have the right to vote. Now that you have the computer, you can communicate with people in the world. Now that you have the internet at your house, you can use the internet at home. Now that we have the internet, we can communicate with each other in the world through the internet. Now that you have the smartphone, you can connect to the internet anytime you want. Now that you have the smartphone, you can connect to the internet anytime you want. Now that you have the smartphone, you can have access to the internet. You can access to the internet. You can have the access to the internet. You have the access to the internet. You have access to the internet. Now that you have the access to the internet, now that you have access to the internet, you can use it at home. Now that you have the access to the internet at home, you can use it anytime you want at home. Now that using a smartphone is common sense and very common in the world, so I think living without smartphone is minority now. Now that many people wear masks when we go out, I think many people get used to seeing the landscape. Now that the emergency declaration was lifted, many people started to go out. Now that it took 1 year since the outbreak of coronavirus, many people got used to the virus. Now that the emergency declaration was lifted, many people started to go out. Now that the emergency declaration was issued, many people stayed at home. Now that the emergency declaration have been issued, many people are staying at home. Think that the emergency declaration was issued, have been issued, so many people are staying at home. Think that the flight ticket is expensive. I will go there by bus. Think that the flight ticket is too expensive, so I will go there by ship or bus, night bus. Think that she is in bad mood today. I will not talk to her today. And since our boss looks so angry today, I will not tell the information to her today. Our boss, seeing that our boss seems angry today, I will not talk to him. Seeing that it is too cold, I will not go out and swim in the sea. Seeing that it is too cold outside, I will not go out today. Seeing that the PlayStation 5 is too expensive for me yet, I will not buy it. And seeing that it takes time to pass the entrance examination, I have to study more with time. Seeing that the living cost in Tokyo is expensive, I will live in another city, another prefecture. And since many people gather on weekends, I will go to the amusement park on weekdays. Since many people go to the amusement park on weekends, so I will go there on weekdays to escape the congestion. Think that there are many cars every morning after 7 o'clock a.m. I will pass the street by 6:30 o'clock a.m. and think that the road is congested every morning from after 7 o'clock a.m. So I'm going to leave my house and finish passing the road by 6:30 a.m. Think that. Think that omega-3 fish oil seems to be good for our health, that I bought it. Think that omega-3 fish oil seems to be good for our health, I bought it. Think that omega-3 fish oil seems to be good for our health, I bought it. Think that omega-3 fish oil seems to be good for our health, I'm going to buy it. Think that the typhoon is expected to arrive here in 3 days. I have to prepare for that. Think that the typhoon is expected to be here tomorrow morning. I have to prepare for it. Think that the typhoon is expected to be here tomorrow. I got day off from work. Think that the typhoon was approaching. My school was cancelled. I think that the typhoon was approaching on the day. My school was cancelled. Think that the typhoon was approaching. My school was cancelled. Think that the typhoon was approaching. The company picnic was cancelled. Think that the typhoon was approaching. The sports meeting was cancelled, was postponed, was extended. Think that the typhoon was approaching. The sports meeting was put off until next week. Think that the next Sunday will be think that the next Sunday it's rainy. We should have the party on the next week. Think that it is rainy on the next Sunday. We should have the party on the next Sunday. I think that it is scary to walk alone in the dark. So could you come with me? I think that it is too scary to walk alone in the dark. Could you come with me? Could you walk with me? I think that I am not used to going to a foreign country alone. Could you come with me? I think that this is my first time to go to a foreign country. Could you give me some advice? I think that everything takes time if you get higher skill. So be patient until you get mastered. Think that, think that, think that, think that, think that, think that. Think that typhoon is expected to arrive here in 2 days. I'm preparing for that. I am taking everything in my house so that the goods won't be blown away by the strong wind. Think that the typhoon is expected to arrive here in 2 days. I am taking everything in my house so that the objects outside will not be blown away by the strong wind. I think that the typhoon is expected to be here in 2 days. I am preparing for that. I am taking the object outside in my house so that the object will not be blown away by the strong wind. Think that she cannot eat raw fish. We went to tempura shop, restaurant. Think that she wanted to go to zoo. We went to the zoo. I think that she wanted to see the polar bear. We went to the zoo. I think that my friend got sick. We couldn't hang out on the day. Think that my friend got sick. We didn't sightsee on the day. Think that my friend got sick. We didn't sightsee together then. I sightsee alone. I think that it was about 10 years since I operated the machine for the first time. I forgot to operate the machine. I forgot how to operate the machine. I think that it was 10 years ago that I operated the machine I forgot how to operate the machine. I think that we didn't meet each other for more than 10 years. We couldn't recognize each other. I think that we didn't meet each other more than 10 years. We couldn't recognize each other. Think that, 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 think that. Think that blue light is said to be bad for your sleepiness when you go to sleep. We had better not use a smartphone before sleeping. Think that the blue light is said to make you awake, so we had better not use a smartphone before we go to bed. I think that it is said that blue light will make us awake, so we had better not use a smartphone before going to sleep. I'm taking everything in my house so that the objects outside will not be blown away by the typhoon. I'm studying hard so that I won't fail in examination. I am studying hard so that I will not fail in examination. I am studying hard so that I will not be failed. I will not fail. I will not fail in the examination. I am studying hard in order that I will pass the entrance examination. I am studying hard in order that I will pass the entrance examination. I am studying hard in order that I will not fail in the examination. I am cleaning a lot so that our guest will be comfortable at home. I am cleaning a lot in order that our guest will be comfortable at home. I am drying my futon so that I can sleep better tonight. I am drying my futon in order that I can sleep comfortably. I got up early so that I could catch the first train. I got up early in order that I could catch the first train. I will get up early tomorrow so that I can catch the first train. I will get up earlier tomorrow in order that I can catch the first train. First train. I will leave my house 30 minutes earlier in order to avoid the traffic congestion. I am going to leave my house 30 minutes earlier tomorrow so as to avoid the traffic congestion. I am going to avoid the traffic congestion tomorrow. I am saving money in order that it will be needed for my doctor fee. I apologized to her for fear that she would get hurt. I apologized to her lest he should get sad. I studied hard so that I could pass the entrance examination. I studied hard in order that I could pass the entrance examination. I woke up 1 hour earlier so that I could catch the train. I woke up 1 hour earlier in order that I could avoid the traffic congestion. I got up 1 hour earlier so that I could study in the morning before going to school. I got up early 1 hour earlier in order that I could study in the morning before going to school. will buy much food and necessities at the supermarket so that I can get through this week. I will buy enough food and necessities at the supermarket in order that I can get through during the typhoon. I will buy enough food and necessities at the supermarket so that I can get through during the typhoon. I will buy much food and necessities at the supermarket in order that I can get through during the typhoon. I decided to practice speaking English with native speakers so that I could pass the entrance examination. I decided to practice speaking English with the native speakers in order that I could pass the examination. I'm determined to practice speaking English with the native speakers so that I can pass the examination. I'm determined to practice speaking English with the native speakers in order that I can pass the examination. I try to eat healthy for fear that I will get sick later. I try to eat healthy lest I should get sick later. I left some pizza on the plate so that my daughter could eat later. I left some pieces of pizza on the plate in order that my wife could eat it after work later. I left some pieces of pizza on the plate so that I could eat them on the next day. I left some pieces of pizza on the plate in order that I could eat them on the next day. I left some pieces of pizza on the plate so that I could eat them on the next day. I left some pieces of pizza on the plate in order that I could eat them on the next day. I left a message on her desk so that she could read it. I left a message on her desk in order that she could read it. I left a message on the phone so that she could listen to it. I left a message on the phone in order that she could answer the question. I left the message on the phone so that I could leave the message. I left the message on the phone in order that I could tell the truth to her. I left the message on the phone so that she could know the information. I left the message on the phone in order that she could know the information. I left some pieces of pizza so that my wife could eat them. I left some food in my garden so that the birds would eat them. I left some food in my garden so that the birds, natural birds, can eat them. Would eat them. I left some food on my garden so that the birds would eat them. I left my house 30 minutes earlier so that I could avoid the traffic congestion. I left my house 30 minutes earlier in order that I could avoid the traffic congestion. I studied hard in order that I could pass the entrance examination. I studied hard in order that I could pass the entrance examination. I went to the university so that I would know the result of my test. I went to the university in order that I would know the result of the examination. I exercise regularly in order to keep healthy. I work out regularly in order to keep healthy. Keep healthy. To stay healthy, to remain healthy, to hold healthy. I work out regularly so as to keep healthy, stay healthy, remain healthy, hold healthy, grow healthy. I work out. I exercise regularly so as to keep health. I studied hard, lest I should fail the examination. I couldn't tell the truth, lest he should get angry. I couldn't tell the truth, lest she should reject my proposal. I couldn't tell the truth, lest she should reject my proposal. I took everything in my house, lest the objects outside should be blown away by the strong wind. I couldn't say the truth, lest she should get angry. I left some pieces of pizza, lest I should get hungry tomorrow, on the next day. I will not buy expensive things, lest I should be broke later. I will not buy expensive goods, lest I should be broke later. I bought enough food and necessities at the supermarket, lest I should be lack of food and necessities during the typhoon. Many people try to buy toilet paper and masks, lest they should be lack of masks and toilet papers. I cleaned my room drastically, lest my room decayed. My daughter behaved well for fear that I would get angry. My daughter behaved well today for fear that I should get angry. I'm going to take umbrella with me, lest it should be rain later. It should rain later. I will go out with umbrella, lest it should be rain. Lest it should rain. I'm going out with the umbrella, lest it should be rainy later. Lest it should rain later. I was silent, lest I should bother anyone else around me. I kept silent, lest I should bother others in the net cafe. I kept silent at the cafe, lest I should bother others. I kept silent, lest I should bother the others in the cafe. I kept silent for fear that I should bother anyone else in the cafe. I took $2,000 to the trip for fear that I should be lack of money. I took $2,000 with me on the trip, lest I should be lack of money on the way. I had my car filled to the I had my car filled to the oil on the way, so that I could go through the mountain. I had the oil filled in my car on the way, lest I should be lack of oil on the way. I had the oil filled in my car for fear that I should be lack of oil and the car should stop on the way. I had the oil filled in my car before going over the mountain, lest my car should stop on the way because of lacking of oil. I had the oil filled in my car before getting over the mountain, going over the mountain, for fear that the car should stop on the way. I went to sleep early, lest I should not be able to get up early on the next day. I went to bed early, for fear that I should not be able to get up early on the next day. I went to sleep early, lest I should not be concentrate on the examination on the next day. I went to the bed early, for fear that I should not be able to concentrate on the examination. The festival was cancelled, lest the virus should be spread around among the participants. The festival was cancelled for fear that the virus should be spread among the participants. The event was cancelled, lest the virus should be spread among the participants. The event was cancelled for fear that the virus was spread among the participants. I bought 2 pencils, lest I should break one. I bought 2 pencils, for fear that I should break one. I bought 2 erasers, lest I should break one. I bought 2 erasers, for fear that I should lose one. I bought 2 erasers, for fear that I should lose one. I bought 2 erasers, for fear that I should lose one. I bought 2 pencils, lest I should lose one. I ran to the train station, lest I should be late for the train. I ran to the train station, for fear that I should be late for the train. I studied hard, lest I should fail in the examination. I studied hard, for fear that I should fail in the examination. I took an umbrella with me, lest it should rain later. I took the umbrella with me, for fear that it should rain later. I brought 2 onigiri in my bag, lest I should get hungry on the picnic on the way. I brought 2 onigiris in my bag, for fear that I should get hungry later. I bought 2 onigiris, lest I should get hungry later. I bought 2 onigiri, for fear that I should get hungry at night. I bought a pet bottle of water at the convenience store, lest I should get thirsty. I bought a pet bottle of water at the supermarket, for fear that I should get thirsty later. I will buy some food at the convenience store so that we can eat in my car. Let's buy something food at the convenience store so that in order that we can eat them in my car. I am going to take the umbrella with me, lest it should rain. I will take the umbrella with me, for fear that it should rain later. I will not go to the event, lest I should get infected with the virus. I will not go to the party, for fear that I should be infected with the virus. I will take much more money with me, lest it should cost more than expected. I will bring much more money with me, for fear that it should cost more than expected. I will bring much more money with me, lest it should cost more than expected. I will bring much more money with me, for fear that it should cost more than expected. Okay, I will finish talking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See ya!